Hi there and welcome to part 3 of add-ons. Add-ons to short jackets. Now I've got 2 different fabrics that can make this add-on reversible. The outer one I got in it was in a box, you know, where they had offcuts, and I paid £3 for that one. The inner, that was on special on a roll, but again that was £3, so it cost me £6 to do this add-on for the fabric. And I love these types because I did myself a couple of skirts exactly like this where they were reversible or they were self-lined, and it's so easy to do. You've just got to make sure that you get your measurements spot on, because that makes the difference between it looking excellent or not looking so good. So what I did with this, I have actually put some pockets in. Right, let me just reposition you so you can actually see the bottom part. So I hope you can see there. You can see the splits that's in it. So if you'd like to see how I do this, keep watching. Stay tuned till the end, because I'll put a different outfit on and turn this the other way so you can see how it looks with the darker side on the outside. First of all, then, I'm going to show you how to measure the bottom of your jacket to get your measurement for this bottom add-on. Right, so I work in inches as well, because I'm old school. So you're going to measure right from the side on the front, and then you're going to go to the side where you under your arm is, that side bit, that is where you're going to be measuring. So that is 13.5 inch on my jacket. So I'm going to add 1 inch on, and that is seam allowance for both sides of the fabric. So I've got on here, I've got my 13.5 plus 1, so I'm going to cut it at 14.5. Then I'm going to measure the centre, and again that's from the side seam, and this is where it's actually, you know, here where it's been turned over, it's this part that I'm taking it from, and that measures 24.5. So that's from under the arm to the other side under the arm seam, and that measures 24.5 plus 1 inch again for the seam allowance, and I need to cut it at 25.5. And then I just check that the other side's the same as the other front, 13.5, and it is. So that's the width, right? So you know you've got your 50 inch in total there when you've finished. So you then need to decide how long you want it. So I measured mine, I put my jacket on, and in fact, no, I didn't. What I did was I wanted this to be the same length as in part 2, where it's got the bottom part of the dress, the Marks and Spencer dress. I measured the back of that depth, and that is what I want it to be, and that was actually 32.5 inch. So again, I've allowed 1 inch on the top and the bottom, because it don't matter if there's a bit of discrepancy in it because of the length. It's not going to matter at all. But measured it to 32.5, I'm cutting it at 33.5. And then I'm going to put pockets in, because let's face it, it's a short jacket, there's no side pockets. Who doesn't love pockets in the jacket? But these are add-ons, but again, great with pockets on. just put a new needle in because this is quite a silky feel fabric, that if you've got a blunt needle, it's going to pull it. So if you've got a nice sharp needle, you're going to be fine. Right, so let me get these stitched on. And there's going to be no overlocking because it's all going to be inside each other, because it's going to be bagged in. Right, so just make sure that this is going to be 1/2 inch that I'm going to be stitching. And then when I come to the end of the pocket, I'm going to leave 1/2 inch to stitch around that pocket, so I'm not coming right to the end. And I'm going to back tack that, take that off, and I'm going to open the pocket up, and I'm going to stitch from where I've started stitching from on the opposite side. And this is on the pocket side that I'm actually top stitching it down. So that is one side done, so you can just see that it's top stitched down on the inside. Right, let me get the other. Now before we go any further, what I've done is on the pockets, I've literally gone in and I've stitched right to the end of where the pockets is, because for some reason I left 1/2 inch, didn't I? So I've gone over all the pockets so that the pockets is stitched right from the end fully down. I'm just going to call that a bit of a menopause meltdown there. I'm going to get this stitched down both sides. Make sure I do that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Right, so I'm going to stitch up to where the pocket is, and then I'm going to come where the stitching is here. It needs to be on this side so you don't see that ugliness. And then coming over, I'm going to come over 1/2 inch because that's my seam allowance that I've allowed. Right, so I'm making sure that they are lined up perfectly there. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a back tack there because you're going to have some, you know, your hands going in and out all the time. And then a little bit of a back tack there. And I'm going to work my way around the pocket. And then when I get to where the pocket is again, the seams are going towards the pocket. So again, I'm going to make sure that these are lined up perfectly, edge to edge. And again, coming that 1/2 inch. Make sure that that is there. And then I'm going to stitch down to the bottom of where that clip is. Just going to do a little bit of a back tack there. Oh, wait a minute, I need to make sure that that is spot on that, so just tweak that a bit. So let me just get that lined up here because it's important that you get your measurements spot on with this. Right, so that, both sides together, 15.5 there. Right, okay. A little bit of a back tack there. That stitches a bit. Is that just snapped? A little bit tight that one. Just loosen that a little bit. Right, so I'm going to just go around that pocket again, just to make sure that, you know, sometimes you get a hole in your pocket, don't you? Just to make sure really that that doesn't happen. Because this is all going to be bagged in, so I'm going to have to undo it to get inside if that did happen. Right, so that's the first side done. So that just needs pressing. Right, let me get the, hold on a minute, let me just look at that. Yeah, that'll be okay once it's pressed. Right, so let me do the same on the other side. Right, so all I'm doing on here then is just stitching that 15 inch down from the top. It's at the bottom of this clip where the measurement is, so it's right up to where my finger is. Okay, okay, that's one side done. Let me get the other side done. Okay, right, so I'm going to go and press the seams, but I'm going to do that off camera just to save on time. So I'm at the position now, guys, where I'm going to be marking where the elastic needs to be at the top of this piece. You could put it on either piece, it's not going to matter, but I'm going to put it on this piece. So I've got my side seam here, and I'm lining up with the side seam under the arm. and then lining the jacket on top, and then where I need to mark it is where the button is, each button. Let me just get this. So where the centre of that button is, the centre of the bottom is where I'm going to be putting the mark. Right, so here, coming down from the button, marking it, down from the button, marking it, etc, etc. As Yul Brynner used to say. Get that up slightly. Right, so what I've got here is I cut these to just over 2 inch, but I've put a knot at both ends. And what this happens is I do a good back tack over every one, but on the skirt, 2 come undone. So because you've got knots in, it's going to be harder to come through the stitch. So I'm just folding that in half so I get the knots together. I'm going to put that just where that first marker is. Right. So I'm just going to make sure that they are together. I'm giving that a good back tack on each and every one, and I'm going to change the colours as I go along. Let's just slip from the mark a bit. And always giving it a good back tack. Okay, so you get the idea, guys. So I'm going to carry on doing this off camera because there is quite a few to do. Now, this is when I say the magic starts to happen with a project like this, when you're putting both sides together. So all the elastics are stitched in place at the top. It is a little bit fiddly, that bit, but, you know, needs to be done. So, right, so I'm going to start clipping this. So first of all, let me just get that. Now what I'm going to do first of all here on the top, I'm going to get the seams and I'm going to make sure that I'm matching those up perfectly. There. Well, to get the other one, the other seam that is, get those clipped together. One in the centre of that. Right, so then what you need to do is we're going to clip all the way down the side. And you're just working your way around this, clipping as you go. Right, now the centre the centre one at the back, I'm going to leave so much open at the centre of that, because that is where I'm going to be pulling it through and bagging it out. So let me just clip the end of this. Right, so let me just work out the centre of that. Right, so we're going to go to that, and then 1, 2, 3 to there. Come to here. I'll have that amount there to bag it through. And this is where you can see that you need to get your measurements spot on, because if they're not, you're going to get some loose. Just pull that up a bit there. You're going to get some loose baggy areas, or it's going to be pulling because it's too tight. You've just got to make sure that you get your measurements really spot on. Right, so that is all clipped. So we're going to go to the Duke and get it all stitched in place. I'm going to stitch with the red fabric on top so that I can see these elastics that I'm going across, so I'm not going to catch them. If you're sewing that way, they might be caught up, but when you're stitching them this way, you can actually see how they're laying. Right, so let me just get that. Right, again, just making sure that they're all laying fat. Not fat, flat. And when I was stitching the elastics in place, I did end up stitching mainly across the knots. And because I've got a nice sharp needle in, there was no problems at all doing that. Right, so I just want to have a quick look at how they all look. Yep, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run over that one more time. And it's just extra security holding that elastic in place. Right, okay. So now then, going round it all, doing the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So keeping the edges together. I've got my 1/2 inch here on the needle plate, and then I'm just going to start stitching it all in place now. Right, and then when it comes up to because obviously here it's going to come up to, you know, where it's bottom of the split. So I'm just going to take that, give it a good back tack so it's just meeting there, and then I'm going to come to the getting this. In fact, let me come up from the other bottom up here. under there. Let me just get that there, and then I'm coming up. And again, this is just coming up right to where the stitching is at the bottom of, at the top of that split. Not the bottom, the top of it. Okay, taking that off. Right, so then now I'm going to come back to where I was on the bottom. My half seam there. Now, I'm not stretching this out, I'm just easing it through because it is a stretch fabric. I don't want to be stretching it because you can end up with puckering, can't you? I'm just helping that, laying it flat and guiding it through. Right, and then again, I'm going to come up where this split is here. I'm going to stitch up to where it meets there, and then I'm going to do the back tack. Making sure there's no, you know, it's not going to be any tucks underneath, right up to where that stitching is. Good back tack, bringing it off. And then again, I'm going to come at the bottom because it's going to be easier to get into that area where the split starts, then coming the opposite way. Okay. Let me just get to where that is. Top of the split. Bringing that right to where that stitching starts. Bringing that off. And then back to the bottom. Right, so first of all then, I'm going to unpick the centre of this middle bit here. Okay, so I'm just gonna, right, so that's going to be more than enough for pulling it. So what I'm going to do here is, where I've unpicked it, I'm going to just come back across in there and do a back tack. Back to the opposite side. Right, so that's all secure. So what I'm going to do now then, I'm going to just cut the corners off. Right, so right, that's gone up a little bit there. Can you just see how it's just curved up a bit? So I'm just going to go in that and just straighten that down because I'm not happy how that's. Yeah, that's better. Right, so where this is here then, I'm going to put my hand in. I'm going to start by pulling this through. Right, now where that mark is there, can you just see? I'm going to measure this. I'm going to go and press it first. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and press it. Then I'm going to lay it under the jacket and just make sure that it's 50-inch, because that might need taking in a bit. I'm going to press it first, but I'm going to do that off camera. The only top stitching that I'm going to be doing on this is going to be on the elastic. I'm not going to top stitch it anywhere else. So I do need a dark cotton for underneath on that one. So that is just top stitched. Right, so what I need to do now then on the bottom of that centre is I'm going to magic stitch that. Right, so I'm going to go inside and I'm going to bring the needle up so that the knot is inside that fold. Now, the magic stitch, you don't see inside, don't see outside. So where that stitching is, there, you're going to come across. But as you come across, you're working that way as well. And then you're going opposite, coming back and opposite. So I'm going to bring that across, take it a little bit over. Taking it straight opposite to where it is and bringing it straight back, but then moving it across inside. Doing the same again, going straight across, coming straight back and moving across inside that fold. And when you're coming across the back side, you're not going through to the outside, you're just doing it on the inside where that fold is, so that the stitching doesn't go through to the right side. Across, back, pushing it across. Got a little knot in that, so let me just see if I can get that through. Right, I can't, it's knotted. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a little tiny knot to knot that off. Okay. One more. And then I'm going to cut that. So I'm going to cut that there. And then I'm going to carry on. Right, so which side am I on here? Coming up here. There we go, and then I'm back on track. So I'm going opposite, coming straight back, picking a little bit up, coming straight back, and then bringing it across. And then when you come to the end, you're just going to do a few stitches. Now I've just noticed there that there's one red stitch. Can you just see there? So I will just colour that in with a dark pen so you can't see it. But then that's where it's been stitched on the bottom. So I'm going to go around it now, cut all the wispy bits on, and then I'll do a bit of a try on for you guys. When I measured it up, you know, I laid the jacket on the table, measured this across, and it was a little bit too big. So on both sides, I took a little bit more in, cut the excess off, pressed it again, and then it fit perfect. So before you actually stitch the bottom, once you've pressed it, measure it against the bottom of the jacket, and then if you need to take any more in, that's the time to do it. This is it reversed with the chocolate brown fabric on the outside. There's no pockets in this side because I don't want too much bulk inside, and then it's got the cool red lining inside. I've just put some really pleated trousers on with these and my check shirt. So you can have so much fun putting add-ons together. It's just picking two cool prints that will complement each other. Now, this brown one wasn't the one I was going to put with it. I'd actually seen a black one. It was black, and then it got these tiny spots all over it that was in like a grey. But when you opened it when you looked at it in certain directions, you couldn't see the spots. But I was like that on it because I got lots of black fabric. I thought I'd already have some that would complement the red. When it come to putting them together, no, I didn't. So my plan was to go back Thursday and get it, but then I became ill. So I've been ill for the past 2 days, so I couldn't go back. Went back this morning and described it to a woman in the shop. She went, I sold it yesterday. So if I'd have been well on Thursday and gone after work, I'd have got it, but it wasn't meant to be. So then it was a case I was going around this shop quite desperate to get a complementary fabric to match the red. Not to match the red, to complement the red. And then I decided that this was a good match. It did look black in the shop, but then when I got it home in my lighting, it's actually brown, but again, it still goes pretty well with the bottom. So the main thing, and I have said it once, but I'm going to say it again, when you're doing this project is to make sure that your outer fabric is the same measurement as the inner fabric, because that's what's going to make it turn out great. If you get one slightly bigger or smaller than the other, you're not going to get your ends to line up smart, and you're just not going to. But bear in mind as well is your fabric choice. You need similar fabrics, if not the same, to work together, and try and keep the fabric light, because the heavier you go, it's going to pull down on that elastic. Now with this, there's hardly any weight there. It was a good choice for me to make, but just bear those things in mind if you are going to have a go at making these projects. Now I will put links in the end for part 1 and part 2 if you haven't seen them, because there'll be details in them that you'll need to know that's not in this video. But I hope you've enjoyed these sessions of videos where you can make a short jacket look different. Now I have decided that I'm going to put buttons on the outside. I have just had some come from Temu, but they're not the same colours. They're the same style button and they're larger, but they're not the same colours as what these colours are. So I'm going to try and get the same, and then I'm going to stitch them on the outside, because I just think that adds a pop of colour, and especially when summer gets here, it's going to be great. Now I am going to do some for summer, but I'm not going to be making any more videos of how to make add-ons, because you can just use your imagination. You can do all sorts. But if I do several and I do enough, I will make a video on like a show and tell, where basically I come on, try them on, show you what I've done, and give you some summer ideas. So till next time, bye for now.